Dad died on a Thursday. Heart attack, sudden, no warning. One moment he was fine, the next, he was gone. The memorial service was the following Saturday at the funeral home. Small, dignified, exactly what Dad would have wanted. About 40 people gathered in the chapel, including family, his business associates, and old friends. I'd spent the week numb, handling arrangements, calling relatives, organizing everything, while my sister Carolyn had been strangely absent. Brief texts, vague promises to help, never showing up. She arrived at the memorial 15 minutes late with her husband, Brian, and their 2 sons, ages 13 and 16. They took seats in the front row like they owned them. I was already sitting there, next to Dad's best friend, Thomas, and his wife. Carolyn squeezed past us without apology, her perfume overwhelming in the quiet space. The service started. The funeral director spoke. Thomas gave a eulogy that made everyone cry. Dad's business partner talked about his integrity. I prepared words but wasn't sure I could say them without breaking down. I was about to stand when Carolyn's older son Derek shot to his feet. "Before we continue," he said, his voice loud in the chapel, "there's something everyone needs to know." The funeral director looked confused. "Young man, this isn't. My mom says Aunt Sarah stole my grandfather's fortune." The chapel went silent. Everyone turned to stare at me. I looked at Derek, then at Carolyn. She was sitting very straight, her face carefully arranged in an expression of pained reluctance, as if this was something she hadn't wanted to say but felt obligated to reveal. "Derek, sit down," I said quietly. "No. Everyone should know what you did. Mom says you had access to Grandpa's vault and you took everything. His money, his documents, everything. You stole it all." People were murmuring now, shocked whispers rippling through the mourners. Thomas half stood. "This is completely inappropriate." The chapel doors opened. 2 police officers walked in. Everyone gasped. The sound was audible in the small space. People shifted in their seats, looking between the police, Derek, and me. Carolyn stood up. "Officers, thank you for coming. I know this is difficult timing, but I felt I had no choice. My father just died, and my sister has stolen his entire estate, everything from the family vault. I filed a report this morning." The older officer, a woman with gray hair pulled back severely, looked uncomfortable. "Ma'am, we're here because you called about a theft. But a memorial service isn't really." "I called you to witness this," Carolyn interrupted, "so that everyone here knows what she did. My father trusted her. He gave her access to the vault, and she betrayed that trust." She turned to face the assembled mourners, playing to her audience. 2 weeks ago, my father told me he was updating his will. He said he was concerned about the distribution of his assets. He wanted to make sure everything was fair between Sarah and me. But then he died suddenly, and now the vault is empty, completely empty, and Sarah was the only other person with access. The younger officer was taking notes. "Ma'am, can we discuss this outside?" "No. These people deserve to know. They're here to honor my father, and they should know that his own daughter stole from him before he was even in the ground." Brian was nodding supportively. Derek stood beside his mother like a soldier. The younger son, Marcus, looked uncomfortable. I'd remained seated through all of this, hands folded in my lap, watching Carolyn perform. She was good, rehearsed, the tremor in her voice perfectly calibrated, the pained expression suggesting this was tearing her apart, but she had to do the right thing. I reached down and picked up my laptop bag from under my chair. The movement caught Carolyn's attention. For just a moment, uncertainty flickered across her face. I stood up, opened the laptop, and set it on the table at the front of the chapel where Dad's photo sat. "Officers," I said, "my sister is correct that our father had a vault. It's at our family home, built by our grandfather 60 years ago, a walk-in safe in the basement. Climate-controlled. It contained documents, some jewelry, important papers, and about $200,000 in bearer bonds." $200,000 she stole, Carolyn said. "The vault has security cameras," I continued, "installed 3 years ago when Dad updated the security system. Motion activated. Records to a cloud server." I turned the laptop so everyone could see the screen. "This is footage from last Sunday, 3 in the morning. I pressed play. The video quality was excellent, clear, well lit, time-stamped in the corner. Sunday, 3:17 a.m. The vault door opened. Carolyn walked in. She was wearing jeans and a dark sweatshirt. She looked around, then started pulling items from shelves, document boxes, jewelry cases. She found the bearer bonds in their leather portfolio and tucked them under her arm. She made multiple trips, loading items into boxes, carrying them out, coming back for more. The timestamp advanced 3:31 a.m., 3:45 a.m., 4:02 a.m. At 4:15 a.m., the vault was empty. Carolyn did one final look around, turned off the light, and pulled the door closed. The video ended. The chapel was absolutely silent. I looked at the police officers. This was recorded 6 days ago, 2 days after our father died. While I was at the funeral home making arrangements, my sister entered his house and emptied the vault. The older officer was staring at the laptop screen. That security footage from the vault? Yes. Would you like me to send you the file? It includes metadata showing it hasn't been edited. The cloud service timestamps every upload. Carolyn had gone very pale. That's fake. Sarah doctored it. The security company can verify the footage, I said. It's been on their server since Sunday. I only accessed it yesterday when I went to the house and found the vault empty. Thomas had his phone out. I can confirm the security system. I helped Alan install it 3 years ago. Same company that does my business. They maintain all the footage on secure servers. The older officer turned to Carolyn. Ma'am, is that you in the video? No. It's doctored. She faked it to frame me. We can examine the metadata, I said. The security company has the original files. They can testify to their authenticity. Brian was staring at his wife. Carolyn, it's fake. Her voice was rising. She's manipulating everyone. She stole Dad's fortune, and now she's trying to blame me. The younger officer spoke up. Ma'am, if we contact the security company, what will they tell us? Silence. Carolyn, I said quietly, they have the original footage, the timestamp, the motion sensor logs. They can verify every second of that video. Her face crumpled. You don't understand. Dad was going to change his will. He was going to give you everything. It wasn't fair. I've been taking care of him for years while you lived your life. I deserved that money. So you took it, Thomas said, his voice hard. While your father was barely cold. I earned it. All those visits, all those errands, all those years of being the good daughter while Sarah was off doing whatever she wanted. I earned that money. By stealing it at 3 in the morning while I was planning his funeral, I said. The older officer stepped forward. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to come with us. We need to ask you some questions about this theft. I'm not going anywhere. This is my father's memorial service. Which you just disrupted by making false accusations, the officer said. You called us here. You made this a legal matter. Now we need to address it. Carolyn looked around the chapel desperately at Brian, who was shaking his head. At Derek, who looked confused and scared. At the assembled mourners, all of whom had watched the video. At me, standing calmly next to my laptop. This is your fault, she said to me. You've always been his favorite. You've always gotten everything. I just wondered what was fair. By stealing it and then calling the police to my father's memorial to accuse me of your crime. I had to. You would have noticed the vault was empty eventually. I had to get ahead of it, to make everyone believe you did it first. So you used your son, at Dad's memorial service. You had Derek stand up and announce I was a thief, in front of everyone here to mourn our father. The funeral director had tears on his face, not from grief now, but from anger. You need to leave, all of you. This service is over. No, Thomas said, standing. Carolyn needs to leave, with the officers. The rest of us are here to honor Alan. That continues. The younger officer took Carolyn's arm. Ma'am, let's go outside. I'm not leaving my father's memorial. You destroyed your father's memorial, I said. The moment you decided to use it as a stage for your performance. Brian gathered the boys and followed the officers and Carolyn out. Derek looked back at me once, his face stricken. He'd been used, just like everyone else in that chapel. After they left, the funeral director looked at me. Would you like to postpone? Continue another day? No. I looked at Dad's photo. He deserves to be remembered properly. Not for this. Thomas nodded. Then let's continue. The service resumed. I gave my eulogy. Others shared memories. We tried to reclaim the space Carolyn had violated with her accusation and performance. But the damage was done. Instead of focusing solely on Dad, everyone was thinking about what they'd witnessed. The accusation, the police, the video. Carolyn had gotten what she wanted in one sense. She'd made herself the center of attention, just not the way she planned. After the service, people approached me quietly, apologizing, expressing shock, asking if I was okay. Thomas stayed until everyone else had left. Alan told me he was worried about Carolyn, as she'd been asking about money, pushing him to update his will with her as the primary beneficiary. He never mentioned it to me. He didn't want to put you in the middle. But he was changing things, making sure everything was split fairly, with protections in place. I think Carolyn found out. When he died suddenly, she saw an opportunity. So she emptied the vault before the will could be read, and then orchestrated this whole scene to preemptively accuse you. If everyone believed you were the thief, no one would suspect her. She called the police to her own father's memorial service. She's desperate, entitled. She convinced herself she deserved that money and nothing else mattered. Not her father's memory, not the sanctity of his memorial, not the truth. I looked at Dad's photo, still sitting on the table next to my laptop. He would have been devastated. He loved both his daughters, but he knew Carolyn had problems. That's why he installed those cameras, why he updated his security. He was protecting himself and his estate from her. We stood in silence for a moment. "What happens now?" Thomas asked. "The police will investigate. The security company will provide the original footage. Carolyn will probably be charged with theft, maybe fraud for making false accusations. The bearer bonds alone are $200,000. That's felony territory." "I know. And the rest? The documents? The jewelry?" "At her house, probably. The police will search once they have a warrant." Thomas put his hand on my shoulder. "I'm sorry, Sarah. Sorry you had to deal with this today of all days. Sorry your sister is who she is." "Me too." I closed my laptop and packed it away. The video that had exposed Carolyn's theft and lies, saved to the cloud by the security cameras Dad had installed because he knew this might happen. He'd known, maybe not the specifics, but the possibility. He prepared, protected his assets, made sure there would be evidence if Carolyn tried anything. And she had. At his memorial service, using her son as a weapon, calling the police to witness her false accusation, performing her carefully rehearsed outrage. All of it captured on video from 6 days earlier. Time-stamped, authenticated, irrefutable. I walked out of the funeral home into the gray afternoon. 2 police cars were still in the parking lot. Through the window of one, I could see Carolyn talking rapidly, gesturing, still trying to control the narrative. But the narrative was settled. The vault footage told the truth. She'd stolen Dad's fortune at 3 in the morning while I planned his funeral. She'd orchestrated a scene at his memorial to accuse me of her crime. And she'd failed. I drove to Dad's house, the one Carolyn had broken into last Sunday, let myself in with my key, walked down to the basement and stood in front of the vault. The empty shelves stared back at me, everything gone. 60 years of family history, documents, treasures, taken by my sister, who felt entitled to it all. I looked up at the security camera in the corner. The little red light blinked steadily, recording. "Thank you, Dad," I said to the empty room. "For knowing this might happen, for being prepared." The camera kept recording, just like it had on Sunday at 3 in the morning. Just like it would keep recording until everything was returned. Justice moved slowly, but it moved. And Carolyn had made sure everyone witnessed her crime. She just didn't realize the evidence would be on my side instead of hers. The vault would be full again eventually, after the police recovered everything, after the investigation concluded. But the memorial service, Dad's final ceremony, that moment of collective grief and remembrance, could never be reclaimed. Carolyn had stolen that too. And unlike the bearer bonds, that theft could never be returned. The dinner was at Dad's house, his monthly tradition since Mom died. Everyone gathered around the old table, eating casserole and pretending we were still close. My sister Denise sat across from me with her husband, Kyle, and their 2 boys, ages 10 and 13. They wore matching polo shirts that screamed, "We're doing fine," while their mortgage ate them alive. Not that anyone knew, except me. 5 years ago, Denise had called me crying. "We're going to lose the house." Kyle's company downsized. We're 3 months behind. The bank sent a foreclosure notice. "How much do you need?" $2,200 a month, just until Kyle finds something, maybe 6 months. I set up automatic payments, $2,200 every month for 60 months. $132,000. 6 months became 5 years. Kyle got a new job, but apparently not one that covered the mortgage. Denise never mentioned the payments again, neither did I. Tonight, Dad had made his beef casserole. Denise brought wine. Kyle brought golf stories. The boys brought phones and boredom. "How's work, Jamie?" Dad asked. "Good. Steady. I managed a small accounting firm, 3 employees, reliable clients, nothing glamorous." "Still doing bookkeeping?" Denise asked lightly. "You should think bigger. Kyle's always saying you can make real money with more ambition." Kyle nodded, as if he hadn't needed his sister-in-law to save his house. "I'm comfortable where I am." Comfortable. That's one word for it. Dad poured more wine. Jamie's always been cautious. Never took risks. "Nothing wrong with caution, except when it keeps you small," Denise said. "Look at Kyle. He took risks. Started his consulting business. We're doing great now." The consulting business that still couldn't cover their mortgage, but I said nothing. Dinner continued. The casserole was good. The wine was expensive. Denise talked about remodeling their kitchen, about the boys' private soccer league, about their upcoming trip to Colorado. "Must be nice," Dad said to Denise. "You've really built something." "We work hard," Denise said. "Unlike some people who just coast." Her eyes flicked to me. The boys were restless. The oldest, Tyler, kept looking at his phone. The youngest, Mason, was kicking the table leg. "Mason, stop," Denise said without conviction. He kicked harder. "Mason, I'm bored. Why do we have to come to these dinners?" "Because family is important, even when some family members are." She paused, looking at me. "Challenging." "What does that mean?" Mason asked. "Nothing. Eat your casserole." But Tyler was watching his mother's face, reading the permission there, the silent approval to be cruel. "Mom says Aunt Jamie stole family money," he announced, loud enough for everyone to hear. The table went silent. I set down my fork. "What?" "After Grandma died, Mom says you stole money from the estate. That's why you have your business. You didn't earn it. You stole it." Denise's eyes gleamed. She was smiling, not correcting her son, just watching my face. "That's ridiculous," I said quietly. "Is it?" Denise asked. "Mom left everything to be divided equally, but somehow you ended up with a business, and I ended up with nothing. You got your half, $47,000, which disappeared into bills, while you got a business. I built the business with my half. I invested. You spent. Or you took more than your share, and I was too trusting to notice." Dad was watching, his expression uncertain. "Denise, that's a serious accusation." "Is it?" "Jamie handled all the estate paperwork. She had access to everything. Who knows what she took?" "I didn't take anything." "Then where's your money?" Denise leaned forward. "You live in a rental apartment. You drive a 10-year-old car. You dress like you shop at thrift stores. If you had your share plus a successful business, you'd have money. But you don't, because you stole from the family and wasted it." Everyone was staring at me now. Dad, Kyle, the boys. "That's why she's poor now," Dad said slowly, like he was working it out. "She took the money but didn't know how to manage it. Squandered it all." "I didn't steal anything," I said again. "Then prove it," Denise said. "Show us your finances. Show us where the money went." "I don't have to prove anything." "Because you can't." Her smile was triumphant. "You stole from your own family and lost it all. Now you're too proud to admit it." Kyle was nodding. The boys were watching like it was entertainment. I stood up. I should go. "Running away?" Denise asked. "That's what guilty people do." "I'm not guilty of anything." "Then stay. Explain. Help us understand how you ended up with nothing while I'm the one struggling to keep my house." The irony was so sharp it hurt. "Your house is fine," I said. "Is it? How would you know?" "Oh, right, because you're probably watching, waiting for me to fail so you can feel better about stealing from me." I looked at Dad. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "You believe this?" I asked him. He shrugged. "Money went missing, Jamie. You did handle the estate. And you are?" He gestured at my worn sweater, my simple clothes. "You don't look like someone who has money. So I must have stolen it and wasted it." "I'm just saying, Denise has a point." Everyone laughed. Not mean laughter exactly, but knowing. The kind that said they'd all been thinking it and were glad someone finally said it out loud. I grabbed my bag and left. In my car, I sat in Dad's driveway for a moment. Through the window, I could see them at the table. Denise was gesturing, probably explaining more ways I'd wronged her. Dad was nodding. Kyle was refilling wine glasses. The family dinner continued without me, the thief, the poor relation, the failure. I drove home to my rental apartment, the one I lived in, because I paid $2,200 a month to keep Denise in her house. At home, I opened my laptop and logged into my bank account. 5 years of automatic payments to Denise and Kyle's mortgage company. Everyone documented. Everyone cleared. $132,000. I'd inherited $47,000. Built a business that netted me $75,000 a year after taxes. Lived modestly because $26,000 of my income went to my sister's mortgage every year. And she'd called me a thief. I drafted an email to the mortgage company. Please cancel the automatic payment arrangement for account ending in 4782, effective immediately. Lisa Morrison. I hit send. Then I went to bed. The next morning, Saturday, my bank statement arrived in the mail, the physical one I still got monthly, old-fashioned but thorough. I opened it. 5 years of payments, all listed. Every month, $2,200 to First National Bank. Mortgage payment for the property at 847 Birchwood Drive. Denise's address. I took a photo of the statement and sent it to Dad, Denise, and Kyle in a group text. Since there's confusion about where my money goes, 5 years of payments, your mortgage, Denise. $132,000. You're welcome. Payments stopped as of today. I turned off my phone and went for a walk. When I came back 2 hours later, I had 47 missed calls. I listened to the voicemails in order. First, Dad, Jamie, call me. I don't understand. What is this? Then Kyle, Jamie, please call. We need to talk. This is a mistake, right? Then Denise, you can't just stop paying. We have a contract. More from Dad, Jamie, Denise is very upset. Can you please explain what's happening? Kyle again. The bank called. They say the payment arrangement has been canceled. Our mortgage is due in full on the 1st. That's Monday. We don't have $2,200 ready. Please call. Denise, her voice shaking. This is blackmail. You can't hold our house hostage because I said something you didn't like. Dad, Jamie, please. The boys are crying. Denise says they might lose the house. Surely we can work this out. I deleted them all and made tea. Sunday, they showed up at my apartment, all of them. Dad, Denise, Kyle, the boys. I opened the door but didn't invite them in. We need to talk, Dad said. About what? The mortgage payments. What about them? Denise pushed forward. You've been paying our mortgage? For 5 years? Yes. Why didn't you tell us? You called sobbing 5 years ago. Asked for help for 6 months. I helped. You never mentioned it again, neither did I. But 5 years. You never said you could pay it yourselves, so I kept paying. Kyle was pale. $132,000. $147,400 plus property taxes. Property taxes too? Dad's voice was faint. But you're poor, Dad said. You live here. You drive that old car. I live here because I pay $26,000 a year to keep Denise in her house. I drive that car because it runs fine and doesn't require payments. I dress simply because expensive clothes don't make me happy. I chose to live modestly so I could help my sister. Denise's face had gone from pale to red. You let me think. All this time, you let me believe we were doing it ourselves. You were welcome to believe whatever you wanted. But last night I said terrible things. You said I stole family money. You said I squandered it. You taught your sons to think I'm a thief. Dad believed you. Everyone laughed. Dad looked stricken. We didn't know. You didn't ask. You just assumed. You saw my modest lifestyle and decided I must be a failure and a thief. You should have told us. Denise was crying now. You should have said something. Like at dinner last night? When your son announced I stole from the family? Would that have been a good time to mention I've been paying your mortgage? Kyle stepped forward. Jamie, we made a mistake, a terrible mistake, but you can't just stop the payments. We have a family, 2 kids. Where will we go? That's not my problem anymore. It's not your problem. Denise's voice pitched high. You've been paying for 5 years. You can't just stop. I can. I did. You called me a thief in front of the family. You let your son publicly accuse me of stealing. You smiled while everyone laughed at me. I'm done. This is blackmail, Denise said. This is manipulation. This is boundaries. I funded your lifestyle while you mocked mine. I kept you housed while you called me poor. I sacrificed my own comfort while you taught your children to disrespect me. That ends now. What about the boys? Kyle asked. They'll have to change schools if we move. Tyler seems articulate enough. I'm sure he'll tell his new classmates all about how his aunt is a thief. That was a misunderstanding, Denise protested. Was it? Because it sounded very clear, your words, repeated by your son, believed by our father. I stole family money. I'm poor because I wasted it. That's what you told everyone. Dad found his voice. Denise, you said those things? I didn't know she was paying our mortgage. I thought she really had squandered her inheritance. Based on what? My apartment? My car? Did you ever ask why I lived simply, or did you just assume the worst and spread it as fact? Silence. The payment is due Monday, Kyle said quietly. We can't make it. That's unfortunate. Jamie, please, Dad said. They're family. Family doesn't accuse each other of theft. Family doesn't humiliate each other at dinner parties. Family doesn't teach children to disrespect their aunts. We'll apologize, Denise said desperately. We'll tell everyone the truth. We'll make it right. You'll tell everyone you couldn't afford your house for 5 years? That your vacations and renovations were funded by the sister you called a thief? That your private soccer league was paid for by the woman you said wasted her inheritance? Her face crumpled. I'll give you 90 days, I said. 3 months to make arrangements. Sell the house. Downsize. Find something you can actually afford. I'll make the next 3 payments while you figure it out. But after that, you're on your own. 3 months? Kyle's voice cracked. That's not enough time. It's more than you gave me last night. 0 consideration. Just public humiliation and false accusations. We didn't know. Denise was sobbing now. You didn't ask. You didn't wonder. You just judged and condemned. Now you get 3 months to face reality. I started to close the door. Dad caught it. Jamie, please, there has to be another way. There is. They can pay their own mortgage. Like adults. Like I assumed they were doing for the past 5 years while they took my money and called me poor. I never said poor, Denise whispered. Dad did, at your prompting. That's why she's poor now. Those were his words. Your narrative. I closed the door. They stood outside for 10 minutes talking among themselves. I heard raised voices, crying, arguments. Then they left. I transferred money for Monday's payment, and the next month, and the month after. Then I changed my phone number. 3 months later, I drove past Birchwood Drive. A for sale sign stood in Denise's yard. I didn't stop. 6 months later, Dad called my office. I let it go to voicemail. Jamie, it's Dad. Denise wants to talk. They're in a rental now, smaller place. The boys are in public school. She says she understands now. Please call. I saved the message but didn't return the call. A year later, I moved to a small house with a garden, bought with the money I'd saved once I stopped paying Denise's mortgage. I planted tomatoes, got a cat, hosted quiet dinners with friends who didn't measure my worth by my car. Sometimes I thought about that dinner, about Tyler pointing at me, about Denise's gleaming eyes, about everyone laughing. They never knew I'd been the strong one all along. The bank statements were filed in my desk, evidence of 5 years of generosity met with accusations. $147,400. I didn't regret giving it. But I didn't regret stopping either. Some people measure wealth in dollars. Others measure it in mortgages and vacations and status. I measured mine in boundaries held, in dignity maintained, in choosing myself over people who'd chosen to hurt me. Denise's house sold for less than she'd hoped. The rental was in a different school district. The boys adjusted. And I lived in my small house with my garden and my cat, wealthy in all the ways that mattered. Poor in nothing that counted. The payments had stopped. But I had started something new. A life where generosity wasn't mistaken for weakness, where family meant respect, not exploitation. It was a small life by Denise's standards. But it was mine, and nobody could call me poor for it. Not anymore. Mom's house sold for $940,000. After the realtor fees and closing costs, we cleared $800,000 to be split equally between my sister Victoria and me, $400,000 each. That was 6 months ago. The money was supposed to sit in the estate account until probate cleared. Victoria was the executor. She had the access, the paperwork, the authority. I trusted her to handle it properly. Then the calls started. First from the estate attorney, confused about missing documentation. Then from the bank, asking about large transfers. Then from Victoria herself, her voice tight with barely controlled anger. We need to have a family meeting. This weekend. Everyone needs to be there. What's this about? You know what it's about, Melissa. Don't play innocent. She hung up before I could ask more. The family meeting was at Uncle Robert's house. He had the biggest living room, enough space for everyone. Victoria had invited everyone. Uncle Robert and Aunt Linda, our cousins, Victoria's husband Greg, and their 2 sons, ages 15 and 12. Even Dad's brother, who we barely spoke to. I arrived to find them already assembled. Victoria sat in the center like she was chairing a board meeting. Greg stood behind her, arms crossed. The boys sat on either side of their mother. Everyone else filled the couches and chairs in a semicircle, all facing one empty chair. For me. Melissa, Victoria said as I walked in, sit down. The room was silent, heavy. Everyone was staring at me with expressions ranging from confusion to anger. I sat in the empty chair. It felt like an interrogation setup. I've called everyone here because we have a serious problem, Victoria began. She held a folder of papers. The estate account, Mom's money from the house sale, $800,000. What about it? I asked. It's gone. Murmurs rippled through the room. Uncle Robert leaned forward. Gone how? Transferred out, all of it, over the past 3 months. Victoria's voice was steady, rehearsed. And according to the bank, the transfers were authorized by someone with access to the account. But you're the executor, Aunt Linda said. You have the access. I do, but I'm not the only one. Victoria looked directly at me. Melissa also has access. I added her 3 months ago so she could review the statements and make sure everything was transparent. This was news to me. You never added me to anything. I sent you the paperwork. You signed it. The bank has your signature. I never received any paperwork. Victoria pulled out a document and held it up, a bank authorization form with my signature at the bottom. Except I'd never seen it before in my life. That's not my signature, I said. The bank accepted it. They processed it. And then, over the next 3 months, $800,000 was transferred out in increments, $20,000 here, $50,000 there, all to an offshore account that can't be traced. And you think I did this? The bank says the transfers were authorized using your credentials, your username, and password. Uncle Robert was shaking his head. Melissa, why would you do this? I didn't. Victoria's expression was cold. The bank has records, timestamps, IP addresses. Everything points to you. Then the bank is wrong, or someone hacked it. Convenient excuse, Greg muttered. Victoria leaned forward. Here's what I think happened. You needed money. Your business has been struggling. Everyone knows that. You saw an opportunity. You forged access to the account, transferred the money out bit by bit, and thought no one would notice until it was too late. That's insane. Why would I steal from myself? It's half mine anyway. Because $400,000 wasn't enough. You wanted it all, and you thought if you blamed it on a hack or a bank error, you'd get away with it. The room was turning against me. I could see it in their faces, the doubt, the suspicion. Victoria, I didn't touch that money. I never even had access to the account. Victoria's older son, Jason, stood up. His face was red, his voice shaking. You're lying. Mom told us everything. You stole our inheritance. Jason, sit down, Greg said, but without conviction. No, she stole from us, from all of us. Jason pointed at me, his finger trembling. Mom says you're the reason we lost the house money. You're the reason we can't do anything now. You're the thief. Jason, I started. You ruined everything. His voice cracked. He was crying now, angry tears. We were supposed to use that money for college, for our house. And you stole it. The younger boy, Marcus, was crying too. Victoria pulled them both close, comforting them while she looked at me with triumph in her eyes. She coached them, prepared them for this moment, used her own children as weapons. And then everyone started. Uncle Robert, how could you do this to your own family? Aunt Linda, your mother would be ashamed. Greg, you always were selfish, even as kids. Dad's brother, thief, just a common thief. The words piled on, accusations, insults, curses. Everyone talking over each other, a chorus of anger directed at me. Victoria sat in the center of it all, her arms around her crying sons, and she smirked, just for a second. A small, victorious smile that said she'd won. She'd gathered the family, presented her evidence, turned everyone against me, and now she sat back and watched them tear me apart. I pulled out my phone. The room was too loud for anyone to notice at first. They were too busy yelling. I opened the voice recorder app and turned the volume to maximum. Then I pressed play. Victoria's voice filled the room, crystal clear, unmistakable. Yes, I need to make another transfer. Account number ending in 7834. $50,000 to the Cayman account. Yes, same one as before. Authorization code Victoria Thompson, executor ID 2847. The room went silent. The recording continued, different dates, different amounts, but always Victoria's voice. Always her authorization. Always her directing money from the estate account to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. 7 different recordings, 7 different transfers, totaling $800,000. When the final recording ended, the silence was absolute. Victoria's face had gone from victorious to pale. Where did you get that? The bank. I requested the transaction records 2 weeks ago when the estate attorney called me about the missing money. The bank provided recordings of all authorization calls, standard procedure for large transfers. Those are fake. You doctored them. Did I? We can call the bank right now. They'll confirm every recording, every transfer, every authorization code that only you, as executor, would have. Greg was staring at his wife. Victoria? It's fake, she repeated, but her voice was shaking. Melissa is framing me. I pulled up my email on my phone and turned it to face the room. Here's the email from the bank sent 12 days ago. 7 audio files attached. Authorization recordings for transfers totaling $800,000, all made by Victoria Thompson, executor of the estate. I swiped to the next screen, and here's the account trace, the offshore account in the Cayman Islands. Account holder, Victoria Thompson, opened 3 months ago. Current balance, $796,000. She's already spent $4,000. Uncle Robert stood up and took my phone, scrolling through the documents. His face darkened. This is real. It's not. Victoria started. I can see the bank letterhead, the official seals. Melissa, can you forward this to me? Already done. I sent copies to you and the estate attorney this morning. Aunt Linda was staring at Victoria in horror. You stole the money? From your own mother's estate? I was going to pay it back. I just needed it temporarily. $800,000? Greg's voice was dangerous now. Temporarily? We have expenses. The boys' school. Your mother's medical bills were more than we said. I had to. You had to steal. Uncle Robert's voice was hard. From your sister? From your own family? Victoria's composure cracked. You don't understand. Everyone expects so much from us. The executor, the responsible one, the one who has it all together. We couldn't afford it, any of it. But everyone expected. So you stole Mom's money, I said quietly, and then you set up this whole meeting to blame me. You forged my signature on bank documents. You invented a story about me needing money. You coached your sons to attack me. You turned the whole family against me so no one would suspect you. The smirk was gone now. Victoria looked desperate. It wasn't supposed to be like this. I was going to replace the money. I had a plan. An offshore account in the Caymans? Greg said. That was your plan to replace the money? I needed time, and I couldn't have Melissa asking questions, so I had to. You had to frame her, Uncle Robert finished. You had to make everyone think she was the thief so you could keep the money. Jason was staring at his mother. Mom, you lied to us? Victoria reached for him. Baby, I can't explain. You said Aunt Melissa stole from us. You made us yell at her. I had to make it convincing. You used your own children, Aunt Linda said, disgusted. You made them cry and scream at their aunt, knowing you were lying the whole time. Marcus was crying again, but differently now, confused and betrayed. Greg took the boys and moved them away from Victoria. Get away from them. Greg, please. You stole from your family. You framed your sister. You used our sons. Get away from them. Victoria looked around the room. Every face that had been angry at me was now turned on her. Uncle Robert had his phone out, already calling someone, probably the estate attorney. The police will need to be involved, he said. $800,000 is grand larceny. Wire fraud if she used electronic transfers. Possibly embezzlement, since she was the executor. Robert, please, Victoria said. I'm family. You stole from family. You framed family. That changes things. Victoria turned to me, her eyes pleading. Melissa, we're sisters. We can work this out. I'll pay it back. Every penny. Just don't press charges. You called a family meeting to destroy my reputation. You forged my signature. You turned everyone against me. You used your children as weapons. And you smirked while they cursed me. I was desperate. You were victorious. I saw your face. You were enjoying it. Uncle Robert finished his call. The estate attorney is contacting the bank to freeze the Cayman account. He's also filing a report with the police. Victoria stood up. I need to leave. Sit down, Greg said. You're not going anywhere. I need my lawyer. You definitely need a lawyer, but you're not leaving this room until the police get here. She sat back down, no longer in the center position of power, but isolated. Everyone had moved away from her. The family meeting continued, but the agenda had changed. Instead of condemning me, they were cataloging Victoria's crimes, gathering evidence, making calls. I sat in my chair, the one that had felt like an interrogation seat, and watched my sister unravel. Jason came over to me. Aunt Melissa, I'm sorry, I didn't know. I know you didn't. She told us you stole everything. She made us practice what to say. She said we had to make everyone believe you were bad. It's not your fault. But I yelled at you. I called you a thief. Your mother put those words in your mouth. He was crying. Is Mom going to jail? I looked at Victoria, who sat alone in her chair, her victorious smirk replaced by fear and desperation. I don't know, I said honestly, but what she did was serious, very serious. The police arrived 30 minutes later, 2 officers who took statements from everyone. They reviewed the bank recordings on my phone and photographed the forged signature on the bank documents. Thanksgiving at my sister Monica's house was a command performance. Every year, same place, same expectations. Big house in the suburbs, matching furniture, landscaped yard, 4 kids in private school. I arrived at 3 with the pumpkin pies I'd made. Monica answered the door in a designer dress, her hair professionally styled. You're late, she said, though I was exactly on time. Put those in the kitchen. We're using the caterer's desserts. Yours can be backup. The house was full. Monica's husband Jeff and his parents, Monica's 4 kids, ages 8 to 15, our aunt and uncle, Jeff's brother and his family. About 20 people, all dressed for a country club. I was wearing slacks and a nice sweater, apparently not nice enough, based on Jeff's mother's expression. Oh, you're here, she said, as if my presence were unexpected despite the invitation. Monica was orchestrating everything from the center of the living room, directing her oldest daughter, Hannah, where to put the wine glasses, telling the caterers where to set up, checking the table settings with the intensity of a general reviewing troops. The dining table was spectacular. China I didn't recognize. Crystal glasses. Place cards in tiny silver holders. I found mine, far end of the table, next to the children's section where Monica's youngest would sit. Everyone else had adult conversation partners. I got the 8-year-old. Can I help with anything? I asked Monica. No, the caterers have it handled. Just stay out of the way. I stood in the living room, holding my wine, feeling like furniture. Jeff's father was talking about his golf game. Jeff's mother was showing photos from their recent cruise. Monica's kids were on their devices, occasionally being told to go play when they got too loud. I'd been paying for those devices indirectly, and their school, and probably a good chunk of their lifestyle. 4 years ago, Monica had called crying. We can't make the tuition payments. Jeff's investment didn't pan out. We're 2 months behind. They're going to kick the kids out. Lakewood Academy, $32,000 per child per year. 4 kids, $128,000 annually. How much do you need? Just this semester, $16,000 per kid, $64,000 total. I transferred the money. Jeff's bonus apparently never came because Monica called again and again. I'd been paying ever since. Full amount, all 4 kids. Automatic payments directly to the school. Monica never said thank you after that first time. She stopped mentioning it, as if the problem had resolved itself naturally. Dinner was called. Everyone found their place cards. I sat next to 8-year-old Tyler, who informed me he didn't like anything that wasn't chicken nuggets. Monica stood at the head of the table. I'm so thankful for our beautiful family and our many blessings. We've worked so hard for everything we have. Everyone murmured agreement. Jeff squeezed her hand. The work so hard family who couldn't pay their own kids' tuition. Dinner was served, turkey sides, catered desserts. Everything plated by the staff she'd hired. Conversation flowed around me, Jeff's promotion, Hannah's violin recital, the Christmas ski trip, Lakewood Academy's new science building. The facilities are incredible, Jeff's mother said. You must be so proud. We are, Monica said. It's worth every sacrifice to give them the best. I took a bite of turkey and said nothing. Hannah, the 15-year-old, was scrolling through her phone despite Monica's no phones at dinner rule. Mom, Madison's family is going to Aspen for winter break. Can we go? We'll see, sweetness. We're already doing the ski trip. But Aspen is where everyone goes. I said we'll see. The middle children, 12-year-old twins named Sophie and Jake, were arguing about something. Monica shushed them distractedly. Tyler was pushing his green beans around his plate, occasionally kicking the table leg. I was on my second glass of wine when the menus were distributed. Elegant cards listing the meal courses, printed with gold lettering. Monica's touch, making Thanksgiving dinner feel like a restaurant experience. The server placed one in front of each person. When she got to me, Tyler grabbed it before I could. Aunt Claire doesn't need one, he announced. Monica looked over. Tyler, give your aunt the menu. But you said, he looked at his mother, confused. It's fine, I said. I can see the food. I don't need the menu. No, you said maids eat in the kitchen, Tyler insisted to Monica. You said Aunt Claire is like the help. That's what you said this morning when I asked why she doesn't dress nice. The table went silent. Monica's face flushed. Tyler, that's not. You did say that. Tyler was gaining confidence now, looking around at the adults. You said Aunt Claire can't afford nice things, and that's why she looks like the help. You said people like her eat in the kitchen with the staff. He threw the menu at me. The card hit my chest and landed in my lap. There. Maids eat in the kitchen, Mom says. I looked at Monica. She was frozen, mouth half open. Jeff's mother nodded slowly. Well, there are different levels in every family. It's just natural. Jeff's father grunted in agreement. Some people are workers. Some are achievers. Nothing wrong with that. Our aunt looked uncomfortable but said nothing. Our uncle studied his wine glass. Monica found her voice. Claire, Tyler shouldn't have thrown that. But he's not entirely wrong. You are more comfortable with a simpler lifestyle. Maybe you prefer eating in the kitchen. Less pressure to keep up with the dinner conversation. That's where you belong, Hannah added, not looking up from her phone. Mom says you're basically poor. Hannah. Monica's rebuke was weak. You do say that, Sophie confirmed. You say Aunt Claire is poor, and that's why she drives that old car and wears cheap clothes. Everyone was looking at me now, some with pity, some with agreement, some with embarrassment that the quiet part had been said aloud. I folded my napkin and stood up. Claire, don't be dramatic, Monica said. The kids don't understand. I'm leaving. Oh, come on, you're being too sensitive. It's just a misunderstanding. I walked to the kitchen, grabbed my pies from the backup counter where Monica had relegated them, and left through the side door. No one followed me. In my car, I sat for a moment. Through the window, I could see the dining room. Everyone had returned to eating. Monica was talking animatedly, probably smoothing things over, reframing my exit as an overreaction. Tyler was laughing at something. Hannah was back on her phone. Life continued without interruption. I drove home to my apartment, small, modest, in an older building. The kind of place Monica would call sad or starter, even though I'd lived there for 8 years. I could afford better. I made good money as a software consultant, 6 figures, stable contracts, excellent benefits. But I lived simply because $128,000 of my annual income went to Lakewood Academy. For 4 kids who'd been taught I was basically a maid. I opened my laptop and logged into my bank account. I found the automatic payment setup for Lakewood Academy, 4 monthly payments of $10,667 each. I canceled them all. Then I drafted an email to the school's billing department. Please be advised that I will no longer be covering tuition payments for Hannah, Sophie, Jake, and Tyler Morrison, effective immediately. All future payments are the responsibility of the parents. Thank you. I hit send. Then I went to bed. My phone started ringing at 7 the next morning, Monica's number. I let it go to voicemail. She called again at 7:15, 7:30, 8. Finally, a text. Call me now, emergency. I didn't respond. At 8:30, my phone rang from a number I didn't recognize. I answered. Ms. Walker, this is Patricia Chen from Lakewood Academy's business office. Yes. I'm calling about the Morrison Children's account. We received your email this morning. I wanted to confirm that you're discontinuing payment for all 4 students. That's correct. I see. The account shows your last payment covered November. December tuition is due next week, and we haven't received authorization for payment. The account balance for all 4 students is now $42,668 for December, and the spring semester payment of $64,000 will be due in January. You'll need to contact the parents about that. We tried. Mrs. Morrison seemed unaware that you were the one paying tuition. She was quite surprised. I imagine she was. Ms. Walker, these children have been enrolled here for 4 years. This is very disruptive. The parents will need to make arrangements. I'm no longer able to contribute. I understand. I'll note that in the file. The parents have until December 10th to bring the account current, or we'll need to discuss the children's continued enrollment. After she hung up, I made coffee and sat by the window. My phone was blowing up with calls and texts from Monica. Finally, around 10, she showed up at my apartment. I buzzed her in. She burst through my door. What the hell did you do? Good morning, Monica. The school called. They said you've been paying the kids' tuition for 4 years, and now you've stopped. December payment is due, and we don't have $42,000. Then you'll need to find it. Find it? Where? The same place you found it before I started paying. We never had it, you know that. Jeff's income barely covers the mortgage and car payments. Then maybe the kids should go to public school. Her face went red. Public school? Are you insane? Hannah's applying to colleges next year. The twins are finally thriving. You can't just pull them out. I didn't pull them out. I stopped paying for a school you apparently can't afford. You've been paying this whole time and never said anything. You called me crying 4 years ago, asked for help. I helped. You never mentioned it again, so neither did I. But to just stop, without warning. I was called a maid at your Thanksgiving table. Your children threw a menu at me. Your son said I belong in the kitchen. Your daughter called me poor. Your husband's parents agreed. You told them I was like the help. Monica's mouth opened and closed. They're children. They don't understand. You taught them. Tyler repeated exactly what you'd said. That I can't afford nice things. That I look like the help. That people like me eat in the kitchen. I was frustrated. You don't make an effort. You show up in cheap clothes while everyone else dresses nicely. You don't contribute to conversations. You sit there quietly judging everyone, while paying $128,000 a year for your children's education. She stopped. What? $32,000 per child, 4 children, $128,000 annually. I've paid over $500,000 in 4 years. Monica sank onto my couch. $500,000? $512,000 to be exact. I thought. Jeff said he restructured his investments. That the money was coming from his portfolio growth. It was coming from my bank account. Every month, automatically. She was crying now. Why didn't you tell me? You didn't want to know. It was easier to believe Jeff had fixed it. That you were paying your own way. That your hard work and sacrifices were covering everything. But you were living like this. She gestured around my modest apartment. Well, we had everything. I chose to live like this so I could help. And yesterday your family made it clear exactly what you all think of my choices. Claire, I'm sorry, the kids didn't mean. The kids meant exactly what you taught them, that I'm less than you, that I'm poor and sad and belong in the kitchen with the help. That's not what It's exactly what you said. Tyler quoted you directly. She covered her face with her hands. What do? We can't afford December's payment, let alone the spring semester. That's not my problem anymore. They'll kick the kids out. Then you'll enroll them in public school, like the majority of families do. But the college applications, the connections, the programs. You should have thought of that before teaching your children I was a maid. She looked up at me, mascara running. Please, I'll apologize. We'll all apologize. The kids will write letters. We'll make it right. You can't make it right. You can't give me back 4 years of Thanksgivings where I sat at the kids' table while you talked about sacrifices. You can't undo Tyler throwing the menu at me. You can't unhear Hannah calling me poor while wearing the $700 boots he indirectly paid for. I'll tell them the truth, that you've been helping. They'll be grateful. They'll be embarrassed, and possibly resentful. That's not my problem either. Claire, please, they're children. They need their school. They need parents who can afford it, or parents who teach them not to call their benefactors maids. She stood up. You're really going to do this? Destroy their education because of one dinner? I'm going to stop funding a lifestyle for a family that treats me like hired help. We're family. Family doesn't throw menus at each other. Family doesn't assign seats at the kids' table and say, That's where you belong." Monica walked to the door, then turned back. "Jeff's going to be furious. His parents will never let this go. Everyone will know we can't afford Lakewood." "Everyone already knows. They just thought it was Jeff's achievement keeping you there. Now they'll know the truth." She left. I spent the rest of the day ignoring calls from Jeff, from Monica again, from Jeff's brother asking me to reconsider, from our aunt gently suggesting I was being harsh. No one called to apologize for the dinner, just to ask me to keep paying. On December 10th, I got an email from Lakewood Academy confirming that Hannah, Sophie, Jake, and Tyler Morrison would not be returning for the spring semester due to non-payment. Monica posted on social media about how they decided public school would be better for the kids. More diversity, more real-world experience, a conscious choice. The comments were supportive, no one knowing the truth. I spent my first December in 4 years not budgeting for tuition payments. I booked a vacation, updated my wardrobe, looked at nicer apartments. I lived like someone who made 6 figures instead of like someone who paid for 4 private school tuitions. My Thanksgiving pies, the ones Monica had relegated to backup, sat in my freezer for a week before I threw them away. Next year, I'd make them for friends, for people who didn't assign me to eat in the kitchen, for people who understood that maids should be treated with respect anyway, and that I'd never been the maid at all. I'd been the benefactor. They just couldn't see it past their own reflections in the expensive china. The Sunday lunch was at Dad's house, a monthly tradition he'd insisted on maintaining after Mom died. My sister Victoria came with her husband, Paul, and their 3 kids. I came alone, as always. Victoria had dressed her children like they were attending a garden party. 10-year-old Emma wore a dress with a designer label visible at the collar. The twins, both 7, were in matching outfits that probably cost more than my monthly grocery bill. "Angela," Victoria said when she saw me, "you're wearing that?" I looked down at my jeans and sweater. "It's Sunday lunch. It's family lunch. Some of us make an effort." Dad was setting the table when we arrived. He'd ordered food from the Italian place, same as always. Victoria immediately started rearranging things, moving plates, adjusting the centerpiece. "Dad, you really should get proper china. This everyday stuff is so pedestrian." "It works fine," Dad said. "For every day, but we're family. We should have standards." Paul was checking his phone, barely paying attention. The kids had scattered to the living room, their devices out. I helped Dad carry food from the kitchen, pasta, salad, bread. Simple, good, enough. "How's work?" Dad asked me. "Busy?" "Good. Still doing that real estate thing?" "Property management, yes." Victoria overheard. "Oh, were you still with that company? I thought that was temporary." "It's been 8 years. 8 years in the same job? That's so stagnant." Paul's already had 3 promotions in that time. Paul looked up briefly, nodded, then went back to his phone. We sat down to eat, Dad at the head, Victoria and Paul on one side with the kids, me on the other side alone. Victoria served her children first, cutting Emma's pasta and reminding the twins to use napkins. She was performing motherhood like there was an audience watching. "So, Dad," she said, "we're planning the summer schedule. We'll take the lake house for July. Obviously, the kids love it there. Then maybe the mountain place in August before school starts." Dad nodded. "Sounds nice. And we're thinking of doing Christmas at the beach house this year. Start a new tradition. The kids are old enough now to really appreciate it." I took a bite of pasta and said nothing. The lake house, the mountain cabin, the beach house. 3 properties I bought over the past 6 years, investments, rentals, appreciating assets, all in my name, all managed through my company. And all used freely by Victoria and her family, who believed Dad owned them. 6 years ago, Dad had called me worried. "Victoria's asking about vacation properties. Says all her friends have them. She wants to know why we don't. I can't afford anything like that on my retirement." "Don't worry about it," I'd said. I bought the lake house first, a foreclosure that needed work, but it had good bones and an excellent location. 2 hours north, right on the water. I renovated it, furnished it, made it beautiful. Then I gave Dad a key and told him it was for family use. Let Victoria believe whatever she wanted about who owned it. She'd assumed it was Dad's. Maybe an inheritance he'd never mentioned. Maybe savings he'd kept quiet. She'd never asked directly, just started using it. Posting photos on social media, our lake house. Family tradition, blessed. 2 years later, I bought the mountain cabin, ski area, Beautiful views, another foreclosure I renovated. Gave Dad another key. Victoria had been thrilled. 2 vacation properties. She told all her friends, showed pictures, called it the family's mountain retreat. Last year, the beach house. Coastal property, harder to afford, but I'd saved and invested well. Same pattern. Key to Dad. Victoria's assumption of ownership. 3 properties. Total value now around $2 million. All producing rental income when Victoria's family wasn't using them. All in my name alone. The lake house is getting so nice, Victoria was saying now. I've been thinking we should upgrade the dock. Maybe get a bigger boat. Paul's been looking at pontoon boats. Those are expensive, Dad said carefully. But it's an investment in the property, makes it more valuable. I'm not sure. Dad, you have to maintain these places properly. That's ownership 101. Emma, the 10-year-old, was watching me eat. Mommy, why does Aunt Angela eat so fast? Because she has no manners, Victoria said lightly. Some people don't learn proper dining etiquette. Why not? Different priorities. Different education. Some people focus on money, others on refinement. Paul actually laughed at that. I continued eating. Aunt Angela, Emma said loudly, do you have a vacation house? No, I said. Why not? Don't you have money? Victoria smiled. Emma, not everyone can afford nice things. Aunt Angela works very hard, but she's not at our level financially. That's okay. Everyone has their place. Dad shifted uncomfortably. Victoria, what? It's true. Angela's always been the struggling one. We're just blessed to have done better. The twins were watching now, learning. Mommy says you're poor, one of them announced. Oliver, Victoria said, but she was smiling. That's not polite, but you did say it. You said Aunt Angela is poor and that's why she doesn't have nice clothes or a nice car or vacation houses. I said she has different resources, which is true. Emma stood up suddenly. Mommy, if Aunt Angela is poor, should she be sitting with us? Victoria paused. What do you mean, sweetie? You said poor people should stand while we eat. Remember? You said rich people sit and poor people stand, like servants. The room went very quiet. Victoria's face flushed. Emma, I didn't mean. That was a different conversation. But you did say it. You said in the old days, rich people sat and servants stood. And that's how it should be. That's the natural order. She turned to me, her voice loud. Mom says poor people should stand while we eat. So you should stand up, Aunt Angela. That's the rule. Everyone was staring. Dad looked horrified. Paul looked amused. Victoria looked caught between embarrassment and something else. Then Paul started clapping, slow, deliberate applause. Out of the mouths of babes. Kids got a point. Social hierarchy exists for a reason. The twins started clapping too, copying their father. Then Victoria joined in, hesitantly at first, then with more confidence. Emma clapped the loudest, proud of herself. Dad's voice was quiet. That's enough. Oh, come on, Paul said. It's just a joke. She's right, though, Victoria said, her voice stronger now. There are levels. Some people sit at the table. Some people serve. That's just reality. Angela's never going to have what we have. She works for a property management company. We own properties. There's a difference. Dad put down his fork. Victoria, this is inappropriate. Is it? Or is it just honest? You've always been the struggling one, Angela. Living in that apartment, driving that old car, working that mediocre job. Meanwhile, we're building wealth, creating legacy. Emma's right. There are people who sit and people who stand. It's not cruel. It's just the truth. She's right, Dad said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at him. What? Victoria asked. Emma, she's right. Dad's face was hard. About hierarchy. About knowing your place. Angela, maybe you should stand. I looked at my father, at his face, closed and cold, teaching his grandchildren that some people deserved seats and others didn't. I stood up. Victoria smiled, triumphant. I picked up my bag, walked to the door, and left. No one called after me. I could hear Paul laughing as I closed the door. In my car, I made 3 phone calls. First, to the property management company that handled my rentals. Lock changes needed on all 3 properties. Tonight. Emergency rate is fine. Second, to the same company. Remove access for all current key holders except the primary owner, me, effective immediately. Third, to my lawyer. I need formal trespass notices drafted for 3 properties. By 8 that evening, All 3 properties had new locks. The lake house, the mountain cabin, the beach house. All secured. I drafted an email to Victoria and Paul. Effective immediately, you no longer have access to the properties at 847 Lakeshore Drive, 2341 Mountain View Road, or 619 Coastal Highway. These properties are privately owned, and you are not authorized to enter. The locks have been changed. Any attempt to access them will be considered trespassing. All belongings can be retrieved by appointment through my lawyer. I attached the property deeds, all 3, all in my name, purchased in 2018, 2020, and 2023. I hit send. My phone started ringing at 6 in the morning, Victoria's number. I let it go to voicemail. Finally, a text. The lake house is locked. What did you do? I didn't respond. At 8, Dad called. I answered. Angela, what's going on? Victoria called, hysterical. She can't get into the lake house. They drove up last night, and the locks were changed. That's correct. Why would the locks be changed? Because I changed them. It's my property. Silence. Then, your property? I own the lake house, and the mountain cabin, and the beach house. All 3. I bought them. They're in my name. I gave you keys so you could use them. But I never gave Victoria permission. She just assumed. You own them? All 3? Yes. But Victoria thinks she's been telling everyone they're family properties. They're my properties, that I allowed family to use, past tense. Angela, she has plans. The kids were supposed to spend the weekend at the lake. Then she should have thought about that before applauding her daughter's statement that I should stand while they eat. More silence. That was Emma being the child. That was Emma repeating exactly what Victoria taught her. That there are people who sit and people who stand. That I'm poor and should know my place. You agreed, Dad. You told me to stand. I was joking. You weren't, and neither was Victoria. They genuinely believe I'm beneath them, the struggling sister. Someone who should stand while they sit. They didn't mean it that way. They meant it exactly that way. Victoria said it herself. There are people who sit and people who stand. Well, there are also people who own vacation properties and people who just use them without asking questions. You can't just lock them out. Victoria's been planning July at the lake for months. Victoria can plan whatever she wants, just not at my lake house. Be reasonable. I am being reasonable. I'm securing my private property, funded by my so-called mediocre job that Victoria thinks makes me poor. Victoria sent a long text later. You're being childish. Yes, Emma said something inappropriate, but you're punishing our entire family because you're sensitive about money. These properties have been family properties for years. You can't just take them away because your feelings got hurt. The kids are devastated. Everyone knows about our summer at the lake. You're embarrassing us. I wrote back, those properties were never family properties. They were my properties that I allowed you to use. You called me poor. You said I should stand while you eat. You applauded when your child told me to know my place. Now you know yours. My properties. My decision. Final. She responded, this is theft. Those properties belong to the family. Check the deeds I sent. My name only. Purchased with my money. Paul called from a different number. I answered. Angela, this is ridiculous. Those houses are worth what, $2 million? You can't actually own them. Property management people don't make that kind of money. Property management company owners do, especially when they manage their own portfolio of rentals. You own a company? Yes, for 8 years. I manage 73 rental properties, including my own investments. The 3 vacation properties generate about $12,000 a month in rental income when not being used by family. Silence. Victoria said you were poor. Victoria sees someone who drives a practical car and wears jeans and assumes poverty. She never asked about my actual finances, just made assumptions. The lake house alone is worth $700,000. I bought it for $350 as a foreclosure and put in $80,000 in renovations. Now it's worth $800,000. The mountain cabin I got for $270, put in $50 in updates. Now worth $600,000. The beach house was $500,000, needed minor work, now worth $650. Total portfolio value, about $2 million, plus 70 other properties I manage. Jesus. Tell Victoria her belongings at all 3 properties are being inventoried. She can schedule pickup through my lawyer. And Paul, next time someone tells me to stand while you eat, maybe check who owns the vacation houses first. I hung up. Dad called that evening. Victoria wants to apologize. I'm sure she does. She didn't understand about the properties. She understood that she thought it was poor enough to stand while she ate. The kids are crying. They don't understand why they can't go to the lake. Then Victoria can explain what happens when you teach children that some people are worth less than others. Angela, please. Dad, you told me to stand at the lunch table. Your daughter told me I was beneath them, and you agreed. He was quiet for a long time. I thought they were kidding. They weren't, and neither were you. You believed it. Just for a moment, you believed I was the poor relation who should know her place. I'm sorry, I know, but the houses stay locked. 6 months later, I sold the lake house. The new owners were a lovely couple from the city. Victoria found out through social media when the new owners posted pictures. She called me for the first time in months. You sold our lake house? I sold my lake house. But the memories, the kids' summers, the family tradition of teaching your daughter to tell me to stand while you ate, that tradition? She hung up. I kept the mountain cabin and the beach house, started renting them out properly, full-time, good income. And I bought a fourth property, a ski chalet in Vermont. Beautiful, modern, expensive. Just for me. No family keys, no shared access, no assumptions of ownership, just my name on the deed, and my rules about who sits and who stands. Turns out everyone sits at my table, because I own the table. And the house it's in, all of them.